Hello, in this lesson we're going to talk about the process of multiplying fractions. Multiplying fractions is actually one of the easier operations you can do with fractions. The process is pretty straightforward, and most of the difficulty lies in reducing your answer to lowest terms. I'm going to assume you already know the process of reducing fractions to lowest terms, and you also already know some basic facts about fractions, such as what numerator and denominator mean. If you don't know these, make sure that you review the previous video, or read up on it in the textbook. Let's take a look at the following example problems. The directions will usually say find the product. We all know that's just math speak for multiply. Let's go ahead and multiply 4/5 times 3/8. Our process is very straightforward. First step is to multiply the two top numbers. So 4 times 3 is going to give me 12. Next, I'm going to multiply the two bottom numbers. 5 times 8 gives me 40. I'm going to put that in the denominator. The bottom. I'm just multiplying straight across the top and straight across the bottom. My final step is to reduce my answer to lowest terms. Well, I'm going to take a look at the 12 and the 40 and see if they have any factors in common. And it turns out that I can divide both of them by 4. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 4 on the top and divide by 4 on the bottom. That's the process of reducing to lowest terms. When I divide by 4 on the top and the bottom, I get my final answer of 3 over 10, 3/10. This is a perfectly good method for multiplying fractions, and you can always multiply fractions just like this. Multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms, and then reduce to lowest terms at the end. There is another method, though, called the cross-canceling method. The only difference between this method and the previous one is that we try to do our reducing to lowest terms up front. Now you might ask, why would I need a different method if I already have one that works? The reason is that the cross-canceling method can make things a lot easier if you have big numbers. If you don't, you can go ahead and use the first method because it is a bit easier to remember. Let's take a look at the exact same question though and use the cross-canceling method. When I say we're going to reduce to lowest terms in the beginning, we're going to do it this way. I'm going to look at the two fractions, and any number on top can cancel with any number on the bottom as long as they have a common factor that they can both be divided by. In this case, the two numbers that can be reduced are diagonally across from each other, the 4 and the 8. That's where the cross and the cross-cancel method comes from. 4 and 8 can both be divided by 4, so I'm going to go ahead and do that just like I did in the first example. I'm going to cross out the number and write the result. 4 divided by 4 gives me a 1. 8 divided by 4 gives me a 2. I'm not writing down what I divided by, I'm writing down the result right next to the number. And now I can do the multiply straight across process. So on top, I now have a 1 times 3, which gives me a 3. And in the denominator, on the bottom, I have a 5 times a 2, which gives me a 10. We get the same exact answer, we just did a reducing in the beginning. Now, why might I want to do this way? Let's take a look at this example on the bottom here. 56 over 45 times 99 over 112. Well, I can multiply these numbers out, and I'll get 5,544 over 5,040. I don't really want to reduce that to lowest terms. That's a horrible looking number. And if you tell me that you knew right off the top of your head that both of those could be divided by 504, I certainly wouldn't believe you. But let's take a look at the cross-canceling method. If I take a look at numbers that are diagonally across from each other, 56 and 112, I might be able to see that I could divide those two numbers by 2, 4, or even 8. It's a lot easier to divide the numbers than your final answer because they're a lot smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and divide them by 8. I know that 56 is 7 times 8. That's one of those multiplication facts that you probably want to know off the top of your head. And so you can try dividing 112 by 8 to see if it goes in. And indeed it does. So I'll divide by 8 and write the result, which is 7. I'm going to divide 112 by 8 as well, and I'll write the result. 112 divided by 8 just so happens to give me 14. Now, hold on a second, you're saying. 7 and 14 can be reduced further. And you're absolutely right, they can. I can divide them both by 7. So I'm going to go a step further, and I'll change colors for this just to make it clear. I'm going to divide both of these numbers by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. I've done a lot of reducing already, and that's going to make my final answer a lot easier to work with. Let's take a look at the other two numbers. 99. Well, when I see a double-digit number that's a repeat, you should know that that's divisible by 11. And the other factor that goes into it is the number that's being repeated. So 99 is 9 times 11. That's one of those useful divisibility rules. It means I know I can divide it by 9 or 11. If you look at 45, if you know your times tables, you know that that's 9 times 5. And if you don't, the list of divisibility rules on page 161 says any number whose digits add up to 9 or a multiple of 9 can be divided by 9. So I can divide both of those by 9. That's another pair of numbers that I can cancel out. I'm going to go ahead and change colors again, just to make it clear that I'm looking at this pair of numbers. And it looks like they can both be divided by 9. Again, I'm not going to write down the fact that I'm dividing by 9. I'm going to just write down the result. 99 divided by 9 is going to give me 11. And then 49 divided by 45 divided by 9 gives me 5. Now, when I go ahead and multiply across, it's going to be much easier. On top, I have 1 times 11, which is 11. And on the bottom, I have 5 times 2, which is 10. Now, it does look a bit messy. Using multiple colors can be helpful, but it does make things a lot easier in terms of finding the numbers that can be that each term can be divided by. This is a lot easier to do than to take the alternative, which would be 56 times 99, giving me 5544 on top. And the bottom number, which 45 times 112 would have given me 5040. I'm trying to reduce that to lowest terms. But you are welcome to try to do that. You can do it either way. Just make sure that your final answer is in lowest terms. To summarize, when multiplying fractions, you're multiplying straight through. The two numerators get multiplied and the two denominators get multiplied. You can either reduce to lower terms in the end, or you can try cross-canceling in the beginning.